Welcome to another podcast of Get Paid for Your Pad. Today we're talking about a sexy subject. We're going to talk about how to build your own A-frames, log cabins, and tree houses to rent out on Airbnb. As we all know, that's where travel is heading to in the future. It's all experimental. Everybody wants to have a unique experience. In 10 years from now, if it's not Instagrammable, people don't want it. So it's all about the experience, and who better to talk to than Alex Jarbo. He is an Airbnb Superhost out of North Carolina, Asheville, and he builds his own A-frames, log cabins, and tree houses. He's also the host of the YouTube channel Alex Builds. So we are going to learn all about how you can actually build your own unique construction items. So I don't know how you call these things. Tiny homes. We call them tiny homes. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, a little bit in the middle. Yeah.
Sweet, man. Sweet. How are you doing?
Good. Hey, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm excited to learn from you because me and Eric, my business partner, we are very interested in the tiny home space. We are working on a project behind the scenes, actually. So we are super interested in learning a bit more from you about, how you build these things, like when it comes to the architecture, the materials, the contractors, the financing, and all of that. So yeah, I'm excited to dive into it. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself and let us know how you got started on Airbnb with your tiny homes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started back in 2017. I had gotten out of the military and I had sort of moved over to Asheville, North Carolina. I'm not originally from here, but I had come over here because I wanted to become a real estate agent. I had a friend that was doing pretty well in real estate and flipping houses here. Did a couple deals with real estate, being an agent for other people, and I didn't really enjoy it too much. I mean, the money was good, but I just didn't enjoy the income wasn't consistent. So I sort of found vacation rentals here. I signed on to a mentorship course and sort of did the retail arbitrage part where it's like the master lease thing for a couple people. Made some good money there. Saved up enough money. And then I started looking for other properties or a property to purchase. And what I realized, and this was back in 2017, was we were getting into bidding wars. People were starting to really realize how good Airbnb, VRBO, the short-term rental stuff, like how much money that was making over the long-term rental stuff. And on top of that, other people just moving to the city that were discovering this city, that it was skyrocketing the prices of the homes where we were just getting bidded out. And it was just like, it was getting to a point, and it's still like this, where it's like, I didn't feel comfortable paying that much. Say it's like, if the city or the county decided to change their vacation rental rules like overnight or something, there was no way that I could get the type of money like to pay my mortgage. So that's when we started. That's when I started looking into building. And what I quickly realized, as long as I had a good builder, it was actually really fun going out, looking at land, sort of just trying to figure out what to do with a specific property. So yeah, that's essentially what we did. Is I found my builder, and then he started coming out with me and started looking at land, and that was super helpful because I live in the mountains. And when I first started, I didn't really have the eye. Like I grew up in the Midwest in Michigan, where it's like everything's flat. So it's like when I saw any type of incline, I was like, nope, we're not building on this. But my builder who grew up here, he was very, very helpful in sort of just allowing me to, like, teaching me how to figure out where to place these houses and stuff. So we built we ended up purchasing 4 acres for a very good price. And then we ended up putting we designed an A-frame, and we put our first A-frame on that land. And right now we're building 2 more there. And then I took on my first investor this year. So we're building 2 log cabins as well. So yeah, that's essentially how I got started. So
Awesome.
It started just came out of necessity. And I would say that right now in 2020, with like how crazy prices are with houses, like it's more true than ever that it's like, we're sticking to this building model because it's just, we have more control over what the property looks like. Instead of purchasing or getting a property, and then having to sort of go in there and figure out how to turn it into a vacation rental. We design these properties with a like even with the tiny houses, like they have a maid closet, they have a clean, like a washer dryer room, like so the tiny houses, it's like everything is designed to be a vacation rental. So
What's the process look like to buy land? I imagine there's no Zillow for land, I think, where you can just
no,
go on
there is,
there
but
is?
I already had my real estate license, but the last piece of land we purchased, I actually used a real estate agent because what I learned was just because I had my real estate license didn't mean that I was really good with land. And that's what I'd recommend to anyone who's first starting out, is go on to Google and actually look up a real estate agent that specifically deals in land. They're going to have the context, they're going to have the people that you need to talk to do the due diligence on the land and stuff. So I would say the process to find the land is finding a real estate agent that's very familiar with land purchases. The agent that I ended up using, like I just said, I have my real estate license, but he saved me so much money and time that the commission I would have gotten off of that piece of property it was nothing. And I'm going to continue to end up using him. So yeah, purchasing the land, that's how you go about. Due diligence is a big part. We're digging well, or we're drilling for wells where we live, just because they are in the mountains, and then we're also putting in septic systems. So just making sure that both you, your builder, and your agent sort of know the right people to make sure that can be permitted properly. That's another thing to think about. But yeah, that's how I found my piece of land. My last couple pieces of land is using a land agent. So yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about the permits? How do you, because I imagine if you just when you purchase a piece of land, does it already come with those permits, or do you need to request those with local authorities?
Absolutely. No, so it's going to be, obviously it's going to be different everywhere. I would go on to your county website and sort of look up where your zoning laws are at, and sort of our zoning laws is only like 100 pages, which is nothing compared to like where I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, which is like thousands. But I would look up those zoning laws. I would honestly, the people who work in these zoning departments, you can get a hold of the person who's in charge pretty easily. Like I have a Zoom call scheduled with the person in charge of all the zoning next week for the community that we're building next year. And just sort of where we live, as long as it's 3 and under, you don't need like a vacation rental complex permit. It's not really a big deal to get that permit. But most of the time the permits do come with it, because it's the land that's zoned. As long as the land is zoned for short-term rentals, because short-term rentals are not like new, like they've been around for a while. It's just the way we get guests and the technology and stuff is the new stuff. So yeah, I would say if you have any questions, just contact like your zoning department. I'm sure they'll help you. I know in the city here in Asheville, so all of our properties are in the county. They're not directly in the city. We did that one because Asheville was becoming very, very strict with vacation rentals. And if I was taking on a mortgage and sort of now taking on partners, I didn't really feel comfortable with sort of taking on that much money and that much risk with them potentially getting rid of vacation rentals in the city. So all of our properties are within 15 minutes of the city. And that actually worked out better for us, because when COVID hit, everyone got out of the cities and sort of wanted to be in the log cabins, the A-frames in the woods, and drive into the city. So for our city, that helped us a lot. So.
Awesome. Let's dive a little bit deeper into what else do you need on the land. For example, there's got to be a road.
Yeah. So a really, and that's another good question. A really good thing that I like to follow. So the last piece of property that we just purchased, which was like back in February, it was 3 acres. I looked at close to 100 properties online before I even went out to go look at the properties in person. Now, what I recommend to people who are sort of looking to do this remotely and maybe they don't live in the city that they want to invest in is I do recommend having some sort of boots on the ground when it comes to looking at the land. And the reason being is right now I only purchase land that is connected to some sort of road, or if we have access to putting in some sort of road. The last two properties we built connected right up into a road. We had to put in, say, like a gravel, like a 2-lane gravel road to get up to the property. But when you start getting into like the bigger projects, say like 4 to 6, so like this year we're doing 4, next year we're doing 6, and say like the one that we're doing 6 next year has total, if all the properties are rented out for the day and it's max occupancy for each property, you're looking at 34 guests on your complex. So that's like maybe 12 to 15 cars that are driving in a day. So having access to like some sort of state maintained road is very important. Now you can get pretty creative and get pretty good deals on properties that are like landlocked, but keep in mind, landlocked being like you can't get to them and say like your neighbors own the land next to it. I would sort of stay away from those if you're just starting off, just because you're gonna have to negotiate with the neighbor in some way. And I've dealt with that with the first piece of property I bought, and people are very touchy with their land, and I mean they have the right to. You're the new person coming into the neighborhood and blah blah blah, but yeah, when it comes to the road, right now I only invest in properties that for the most part have a direct access to the land, where the state maintained road is connected to the land, and then we will go in and put in some sort of gravel road. The way we find where to put that gravel road is we have a landslide consultant that sort of has and this is sort of getting into the advanced stuff, but we have a landslide consultant that sort of has access to like satellite LiDAR data that sort of looks at the entire elevation of what the land that we purchase. And he's the person who will like place the houses and make a recommendation on where the road goes and stuff. So
yeah, that makes sense. What about electricity?
yeah, huge one, man, huge one. So the first property we built, actually, the A-frame, that was the biggest lesson I learned from that project. So it was connected to a road. It was a private road, but it was a paved road coming up to the 4 acres. And I didn't know, and my builder didn't catch it, my agent didn't catch it, that the land didn't have access to electricity, that we needed to get some sort of easement from the neighbors to bring electricity to the property. I didn't think that was going to be that big of a deal because the neighbor below me or has a beautiful Airbnb with a mountain view just like mine. So I thought we're both Airbnb hosts, that she was going to be nice about it. But I mean, again, it's her land. She can do whatever we want. Same thing with the neighbor on the other side. We built that first cabin with a generator because none of the neighbors would give us electricity. That was like, we had a fully built house at the end and we didn't have any electricity to get to it. So we played around with solar, but just we had to take down too many trees, and we did ended up getting the electricity. It was just we had to go like the 3 times the distance completely around my neighbors, which we were lucky that another neighbor had said yes to that. But yeah, making sure that electricity is a big one. Another one that I learned about a year ago is if you're doing internet or like you're probably going to be doing some sort of satellite internet with the land that you're purchasing. Just making sure that if you're doing direct TV or if you're doing any type of satellite TV, satellite internet, bringing out the company, you can pay, I think that you pay them like $50 to $75 for their team to come out and just verifying where that where the internet's going to go, where the direct TV is going to go, and stuff like that. And that also helps you before you even have your crew out there to tell your builder, hey, take down these 3 massive trees because we can't get internet because the trees are in the way. Same thing with the electricity company. You can contact your electricity company and they can tell you like, hey, no, there's no way to get electricity to this land without talking to the neighbor. So yeah.
So you got to make friends with the neighbors first.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's true. That's true even outside of the electricity thing. Just making sure that you're on good terms with the neighbors.
Should probably just book their
That's a big
Airbnb
one.
first. Book their Airbnb first.
Yeah,
Give
'cause
them
the
a glaring
first thing they think
review.
about is parties when they hear Airbnb, which is not true, but it's like they would go,
Well, you
oh
said
crap.
like one of your neighbors had their own Airbnb, no?
Yeah, they did. I mean that the property that's right below us, that's connect the like adjacent the land that's adjacent to us, that was an Airbnb. So I thought she was good. She's super cool. It's just she just didn't want to give us that easement. So
Yeah, is she worried about competition, you think?
yeah. What was that?
Do you think she was worried about the competition? Or
Yeah, maybe. I mean that wasn't gonna stop us. We just dropped all this money on the land. We were gonna, yeah.
all
I
right, so
mean, maybe.
these are kind of the boxes that you have to tick off. You have to figure out, is there easy access by road? Is there easy access for electricity, satellite, internet? And then you have to make sure that you're able to install that septic tank that you're.
Yeah, so yeah, the septic tank and the well. The well is a little bit of that's the biggest unknown if you don't have access to city sewer. We don't really deal with like natural gas or propane. All of our appliances are electric. So that's another thing I'd recommend is like if you don't, just to skip a step, so you don't have to have like a propane tank going up there every like couple months. Is just I would recommend all electric appliances, hot water heaters, everything. But yeah, the septic system you can, if you're using a land agent, I'm sure they'll have someone to he's called a soil scientist. That's the person that you send out there to like put a couple holes in the ground and figure out if the land, it's called perking, if the land will perk to be able to accept a septic system for it to be able to get the permit. The well, honestly, well permits are pretty easy to get. You can go on your county website and sort of figure out, look at your neighbors' well permits, depending on how old the property is, and sort of see how far they had to dig down. And honestly, that's been a pretty good gauge when it comes to like budgeting for a well. I would go on the higher end compared to the lower end when you see like your neighbor's depths and stuff. So because the A-frame, we had to dig like 850 feet, which is insanity to me. I just think about like where I grew up or like visiting Chicago, like you think of like the John Hancock building or something, and it's like we dug 85 stories down into the ground, which is
Wow,
crazy.
that's
Yeah.
nuts. So and then what happens? You suddenly find water and it just comes out.
Yeah, find water, or it's like the groundwater sort of fills up the tube or the pipe that's put in the ground, and then that water is sort of taken through a filtration system under the house. So it's like you get the water tested after that to make sure there isn't anything crazy, and then based off of the water test, they you'll sort of get a recommendation on what type of water filter system you need to use. So
Yeah.
yeah.
How do you dig like 300 feet? What did you say? 800 feet?
Yeah, 800. Yeah. It's a massive
Crazy.
semi-truck looking machine. It has like this huge thing, and it's like they put one pipe in the ground and then they feed another one, and it just keeps digging and digging. It's crazy. It's loud. Your neighbors aren't gonna like you that day. So
is it possible like you hit some sort of big rock or something and you have to?
yeah, those
up
machines will
and do
go
it
straight
again?
through it. Yeah,
Oh,
it doesn't
really?
matter. Yeah,
They go straight
it'll
through
go
the
straight
rock.
through it. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's
wow.
crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And the weird thing about, I mean, I'm not a professional when it comes to this stuff, like the well stuff, but it's like, um, you can't really predict exactly where that water is going to be at. So that's the biggest unknown when it comes to budgeting. So we like to do the primary property with an accessory dwelling unit just for loan purposes and permitting process purposes. But we like in our county will allow us to have one well per two dwellings if you do it that way. As long as the well produces, we always budget for a well per property just in case one is not enough. And it's good. Like, I mean, it costs about like maybe 13 to 15 grand to dig one well. So it's like, if we budget for an extra well and that money, we don't have to spend that money. It's there just in case. So yeah.
Interesting. Let's talk a bit about the actual construction of the property, right? You need to hire a contractor, you need to hire a architect. I imagine.
Yeah. So so contractor, I mean, you can go on your local building association and just start interviewing people, go on their website, sort of figure out how what properties they've built and stuff. I will say that find someone who's actually like pretty passionate about building smaller houses. I wouldn't necessarily say, so we build anywhere between 300 square foot, which is a tiny house, to upwards. I don't like to go over 2,000 square foot. 2,000, you can fit 8 people in 2,000 square feet, but we stick to that range. Like the first one we built was about 800 square foot, but just make sure that your builder is like pretty passionate about what you guys are doing. My builder definitely is super excited about like these unique property. Some builders just like to build the one home that's copy and pasted in the whole neighborhood. So just making sure that your builder is up to date on that. When it comes to an architect, I started by first getting ideas on like Pinterest and Instagram and stuff. And it's funny because my builder and I both have a Pinterest account, and we just share ideas back and forth. Like we share our boards and stuff. Say like when it comes to like the interior designing part, I'll see like a really cool kitchen and I'm like, we'll send that directly to him. But when it comes to the actual architect, I will get a whole bunch of different ideas from Instagram and YouTube. YouTube's awesome because you can actually walk through the properties that are already built. Pinterest, Google. And then I recently started doing this, and it's been super, super helpful. I did a video on it for my YouTube channel. I actually go on Fiverr, and you can actually find phenomenal, relatively cheap architects on Fiverr. And in my YouTube video, I sort of recommend the one that I use. I walked through everything. But I mean, I had 2 custom floor plans with 3D renderings, 2 of them done for like about $900, which is incredible compared to some of the more custom architects and designers and draftsmen that are out there. The issue with finding an architect, say like locally, or even if you go with like a more like high-end design firm, is they're used to building one property that's like going to be a person's home, and it's like probably going to be a more high-end property. Sort of the niche that we have found recently was to like build these luxury looking properties, just very small, 300 to 1,000 square foot, and people absolutely love them. Like they'll choose that over a hotel all day. You can purchase pre-built, pre-made plans, which we've done before. Den Outdoors is a company that we recently found. Really good support team. That they have some really cool plans, some A-frames, some like farmhouse type looking houses, and that's actually what we're going to be building next year. The log cabins, the A-frames, those are sort of like timeless when it comes to like, those will never go out of style in my opinion. Everyone's always going to be wanting to stay in something like that. Tree houses as well. So
right on. So you talked about the architects. That's really funny. I would never think of Fiverr to find a architect.
yeah, right.
I don't know. I associate that platform with, low value
Design.
tasks, right?
Yeah, right. Maybe like ads or like Canva designs or something. But yeah, no, it took some looking to find one, but we found a really good one that I recommend in that video. That it took about 21 days to turn around. But the nice thing about that too is like, say you pay for something and you don't like it, and you have a disagreement with the architect about like price or just the design, you can go directly to Fiverr and get your money back. Compared to like, say like a local architect where it's like you might be stuck with what they give you if they don't want to like continue to update it. So
true.
Yeah.
True. Any advice when it comes to the contractors, the builders? You said find somebody who's passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Do you have any more tips on like how to work with them, what to look out for, stuff like that?
Yeah, so when you're first starting, when you have like one property, obviously this has sort of been something that I've ran into. It's like, just because something's not happening at the property for 2 days or 3 days, sometimes I like, you can get aggravated about that, because it's like, say if it's like beautiful weather outside and there's no work being done, you might not know that like maybe the builder is like working to get the permits done, or waiting for the city, or waiting for like specific contractors. So making sure that you have a builder that's like very good at communicating. the first property we did, we just had a Google Doc that like would just get updated on the daily or maybe every other day. If you can, we haven't done it yet, but like the 6 properties that we're doing next year, we're investing in a system where like with like actual communication and stuff, we'll like build a specific builder platform. But another thing for the builder is if your lender, and we'll talk about lenders in a second, I'm sure, but if your lender doesn't give you a closing draw, which means like a draw at the closing table for you to be able to start the projects, which a lot of lenders now don't, it's important for your builder to be able to have some sort of line of credit that so they can start the work and then get reimbursed for the work that gets done. That's been tricky because when I first started with my builder, he was a friend, or he is a friend, and we sort of grew together. But it's like we had to get we had to convince the lender to give us a closing draw, and if they wouldn't give us a closing draw, we sort of had to make up that money on our end and then get reimbursed for it. So that's a big one, is making sure that your builder sort of has some sort of line of credit to be able to start the work if the lender won't give the money up front. So
yeah, so let's talk more about lenders. How do you finance something like that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So and this has actually been the biggest part of the whole journey so far in the last couple of years. Is I've probably talked to 300 lenders at this point. You had someone from sorry, I forgot his name, but from Host Financial. I had recently talked to him, and phenomenal company. That's who we're using now, and the reason we're using them for the 6 projects next year is because it is the only company I've seen so far that will look at AirDNA projections, not just there are some companies that will lend on vacation rentals with like if it already has a history of being rented out, but Host Financial, they didn't offer them last year, and I don't even think they offered it like 6 months ago, but they do offer construction loans now. And they will underwrite the property based off of those projections. They'll look at your credit, but they won't really look at like your income or anything. They'll just look at how much the property can rent for. It's called a debt service coverage ratio. They just look for a specific number there, which is phenomenal. That's no other lender is doing it that way. When we first started, we actually just got a normal home loan. We were intending to live in the property, not intending to live, but we had told the lender that we were going to intend to live in the property. And then I got married, and we just we wanted something a little bigger. But you can start with a regular home loan. I've done a video on that too, where I discuss how you can get a home loan, sort of live in it for like 6 months and sort of step away from it. As long as the lender is getting paid, honestly, I don't really see any bad thing about that. The lender will check up to make sure that you've actually moved in on the house the first like month or so. But like, I mean, life changes, things happen where it's like you can move away, and it's like I've heard of that's like sort of like the bigger pockets like thing with like the BRRRR strategy, where it's like you purchase like a 3-plex and like live in one and rent out the other 2 and eventually move out. So it's the same idea. So it's like people get a little touchy sometimes when I talk about that, but I mean, it's the same idea. People have been doing it forever now, last like 20 or 30 years.
I've always wondered what is that BRRRR strategy? What is the abbreviation? What does it stand for?
Buy, renovate, rent, and refinance. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's a strategy that I guess became popular with bigger pockets, where it's like purchase a property, rehab it, rent it out, refinance it, get your money out, and then continue to rent it. That's a phenomenal strategy. You can do that with that's essentially what we're doing with the vacation rentals. We're building 2 units at a time per plot, and then you can live in one of them. This is the strategy if you're just starting out. Say it's like Host Financial won't underwrite you, but you can get a loan. I'd recommend like building 2 little properties, living in one of them, rent out the other one, and then once the money starts coming in, maybe live in it for like 6 months, and then move out and rent out both of them. That's another thing. Yeah. That's very powerful stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool that you use the Host Financial. They're good friends of mine. So shout out to Adam and Daniel
Yeah, Adam.
at Host Financial. Actually, they were on the podcast episode 315. So if you're listening and you want to
That's
know
how I
more
found
about,
him.
oh, that's how you found him. Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
I found it through you, and I called him. Adam got on the phone with me. Man,
Nice.
he's one of the leaders of the company. So.
Yeah, yeah. I remember I had beers with him in San Diego before
Oh, really?
COVID happened,
Yeah.
and that was still allowed. Yeah, so episode 315. Anyone who's listening interested in doing that, there's a podcast at Host Financial. So awesome. Any last pieces of advice before we start wrapping up this podcast?
Yeah, man. I would say for anyone who's like looking to build these or start building, like to sort of running into the same issue that I ran when I first started, where it's like they're constantly getting bidded out or just constantly competing for these properties. And it's like the issue is you're also like as a vacation rental investor, you're competing with people who also want to live in these houses, who are honestly probably willing to pay more than you. So it's like if you're running into that, I would say do your research and really try to really try to find the perfect piece of property and really try to design it right. That's the uniqueness of your property is going to help it so much. On like we as hosts, we think about how we can sort of get more money for our property. If we put in an extra sofa bed, we can sleep more people. But I'll tell you the one of the most powerful things you can do is just design the house right for it to look nice. Where what like A-frames do really well, log cabins do really well, the treehouse thing does really well. Just designing the properties to make sure that they look phenomenal, and that will trump any of your competition. And I didn't really talk on the tree houses too much, but I plan on doing a YouTube video down the road on that specific topic. But yeah, that's sort of what I just recommend doing is if you do decide to go down this route, just making sure that you're building really unique properties. Just think about like, would you take your family? Would you take your significant other to stay in the property that you're building? We're sort of building them on the more higher end, not really materials. Like they do look like higher end properties, so it's like you are going to get more of that higher end guest, which helps with like not really messaging too much and not too many problems. So yeah, just building a unique property. The unique properties are gonna are in my opinion, the next 10 years are just going to do so much more than what's on the market right now. So, and it's starting to come on the market now.
Yeah, man, 100% agree. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We could do a whole podcast about why unique stays are going to dominate in the next 10 years. So we won't get into that too deep here, but yeah, man, I appreciate your time. It's super cool what you're doing. And so for people who want to know more about what you're doing with your YouTube channel, Alex Builds, I just searched for it on YouTube, and there's a lot of YouTube channels that are called Alex Builds.
Oh no!
So the best way to find you is actually go to getpaidforyourpad.com, check out the show notes of this podcast, and I'll put a link to the YouTube channel so you can watch some of Alex's YouTube videos if you're interested in this topic.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. Yeah, if they're looking for it, I know it's difficult to find right now because we just started the YouTube channel. It's like it looks like a little treehouse logo. It's a blue treehouse logo if you're looking for it. If you guys most of the stuff that pops into my head, I make a YouTube video about. If you guys have any questions about anything, leave them in the comments, and I'll if you guys want like a specific video made on anything, I'll probably do that. Just blast it in the comments. We're also taking on investors right now, so if anyone's not really looking to do this on their end, or if they just don't have too much time, well, we're taking on investors for next year's projects. I'd like to get to 40 in the next couple of years. Building 40, we have the systems in place to do that, so we can schedule like a one-on-one. Just email me at alexbuildschannel@gmail.com, and then we can sort of schedule a call and sort of talk about what our investments look like. So that's ALEXBUILDS channel@gmail.com. So
awesome, man. Well, once you get to the 40 properties, you should join our Legends Mastermind.
Oh, I'd love to, man. Yeah, I would absolutely love to.
Really awesome. All right, Alex, thank you so much for your time. This was really interesting. You learned a lot. So appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And to the listeners, thank you for listening or watching on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, give this video a like, but then also go over to Alex's channel and subscribe. So let's try and get into 100. Because when you get to 100, you can claim your own URL. So then it's easy to tell people about your channel, right? So that makes that easier. All right, thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Jasper.